Hi, this is Ruth Royal from Youth Pledge for Employers, and we're just really pleased today to be talking to Gemma Watts from Pearl Pictures and Gemma Watts Photography. She's the owner of both those organisations. Hi, Gemma, lovely to meet you.
Hi there, hello.
Thanks so much for giving up your time today. Would you tell us a bit about your different companies and what you do?
Yes, sure. So I've been a professional photographer for about, well, it's 20 years this year. And I've got two businesses. I have Pearl Pictures Photography and I have Gemma Watts Photography. There are two sort of areas of photography you can go into. In my case, anyway, it was social photography or commercial photography. So just to kind of tell you about the difference in that, social photography is very much, about to do with people. So it might be having your photos taken at school for your school photograph, weddings, parties, family portraiture, which tends to be dealing with a member of the public, sort of between sort of families and school associations, that kind of thing, where you're not selling a product. So you as a business are not selling the product. I'm giving you a service. I'm taking pictures of you for keepsakes, really. That's your sort of social side. On the commercial side, it's about taking pictures for companies, so brands, products, magazines, publishing, books, all of that side of thing is called commercial photography. I actually started out in commercial photography as a food photographer. So I started off in London doing that. And I was in my late 20s then, I think, because I sort of changed my direction because I was always fascinated and interested in photography. I always had the person with a camera at a party or on holiday. Everyone would like, and then gradually all my friends started to get married. So they said, oh, Jem, will you take pictures of my wedding? So I started to do that in my 20s and 30s. And off the back of that, I started doing christenings and then maybe 18th or 21st. Or family might say, well, can you just come in and record my family this year? I've got a new baby or, anything like that. So that kind of started up. So that encouraged me to start up a separate company just dedicated to that style of photography, which is the Pearl Pictures. But I do still continue with my my Gemma Watts Photography, which now covers food and interiors. Yeah, so I photograph all the top kind of major magazines, quite a lot of homeware brands as well that you'll see around, from curtains to flowers to plants, and it could just be bits of like random food that people are selling from a small company, or it could be right up to a big company, like for local ones in Suffolk, I've done stuff for Aspel's, Gressingham Duck, who's the other one? Adnams, so those kind of brands that you see around, that encompasses my food and lifestyle kind of photography there. But yeah, how I got into it, this is quite an interesting one, because one thing I would say to young people is you've got to be passionate about photography. A lot of people think it's easy. They think, oh, I like taking photos, I just won't be a photographer. And I've heard a lot of people will go to university or college after school and study photography thinking it's just an easy subject. But to be successful as a photographer, you have to have an eye, a creative eye. It's really important. You also have to have a bit of a business head. So, because you are ultimately, at the end of the day, running a business, so I have lots of plates that I'm spinning continuously. It's marketing, which is, sending out emails, newsletters, Instagram, social media, even advertising sometimes. On the social side of my photography, you might put an ad in local paper for my wedding photography, for example, or a local magazine, an advert. So there's different forms of marketing to get yourself known. So there's that, and then there's accounting, because you've got to do your books, you've got to do invoicing, you've got to know how to quote, and there's also managing the actual side of business. So how are you making a profit? What are you spending and what are you earning? So it's really important that you have, I'm not saying you have to be brilliant at all of these, but you have to have an understanding. And things like doing a tax return, you're self-employed, it's like, at what point do you get an accountant? So my biggest piece of advice for anybody thinking about becoming a photographer is that please be aware that I would probably say 80% of your time is office admin and marketing and business, 20% of your time is taking photos. So I think
that's
it's
so
really
interesting to understand that split is really, really helpful and sort of really grounding about actually what your kind of working week might look like. Would you talk us through a sort of typical Gemma working week and what that might look like?
So Mondays I like to have as my admin day, and I don't book in any photo shoots or anything on a Monday, because if you let that run away with you, suddenly I might not have invoiced somebody for months, things like that. So you have to really dedicate your time for that. I then catch up with clients. I might sort of ring up every now and again and see how you're going, if you've got any work that's coming up. Generally, I don't do that anymore so much, but in the early days, it was very much about, and this is where I'm going to show my age, it was way before kind of smartphones and Instagram, even emails. It was all phone calls, phone call. And that you have to have a bit of a hard skin, because some people say no. I sometimes, a lot of my time I will work on also my website. I need to update my website, I need to get my current work out there. I would say marketing in any one week is huge, especially now that we have Instagram, and TikTok even is coming into it now in my work. I didn't grow up with any of this, so this is a whole new thing for me to have to learn. But it is really important. That is one of the key ways that people see you. So you're staying abreast of like algorithms and trends and all that kind of stuff. So I would say marketing is a huge part of my week. I never like to do more than maximum 3 days of taking photographs for clients, because not only are you out taking the photos one day, you then have a day after that, or at some point in the near future, editing. So in the old days when you shot with film, I would send the film off to a photo lab who would process the film, and I'd have a nice evening off, glass of wine, watch a bit of telly. Now I get home from a job and I have to do all that because it's all digital. So I have to download my memory card. I have to upload the images to my cloud software. I have to then go through and edit and see which ones I want to keep. And then you have to work on the post-production. So there's a lot more work now that we are digital and not film. So I would say 3 days of my week are shooting for clients. 1 day a week is admin. Another day, and that includes marketing. And then I have to do my editing at least 1 day. I like to say maximum 2 days a week are editing. And yeah, just trying to fit everything else in around it, life.
That's really helpful to understand. So essentially then, like you say, that really quite a lot of your week is spent not taking pictures, in addition to that sort of creative eye and your actual practical photography skills. You really need office skills, you need to understand marketing, you need social media skills, you need to understand the editing software, and also as well, I think you sort of touched on kind of the resilience as well as the organizational skills that you need to be able to do your job well. If you were sort of, what sort of things would you, if somebody was starting out, it'd be really interesting to hear a bit more about how you perhaps got into photography, like with the food photography. It seems like quite niche, but probably isn't.
Well, I'll tell you what I did, and I would, even though it was 20 years ago, and the internet is much bigger now, and you can do a lot more research out there. There's nothing better than meeting people face to face. So let's say, someone said to me, oh, my friend's a photographer. What I would do is I get their phone number, I ring up, I say, can I have a chat? And I would show them some of my photographs and say, do you think I've got an eye? Do you think I've got the creative ability to go into this industry? That was first up. And then I just listened to, like I'm doing now, talking to you, I would listen to them and I'd ask questions to really understand if that's what I wanted to do. So first of all, I would say, approach photographers, see if you can have a chat. I'm always helping people, because I got help and I really appreciated that when I was starting it, and I think it's really invaluable. The other thing is, practice. Just keep taking photos. You don't have to have the latest top camera. It's all about your eye, your understanding of light and composition. And if someone comes to me and they're not interested in that, they just want to make money. I mean, that's the worst thing. Someone says, oh, no one knows money being a photographer. It's like, hang on a minute, you've got to hone that skill and show me you've got a skill. So yes, there's the technical and the creative side of taking a photo. I would then really ask yourself if you've got the personality for it. It's quite a lonely job. You know, I'm on my own a lot of the time. If you are one of these people that really thrives of being part of a team all the time, then you might want to go and work for a company. Yes, I work as a team on a shoot, but that might be just one day, and I might never see those people again. So, and then bearing that in mind, your personality comes into it in the sense that can you walk into a room, especially like a wedding, having never met anybody apart from maybe the bride, way before the wedding day, you're walking into an environment where there'll be probably ranging from age groups 2-year-olds to 82-year-olds. You've got to get on with everybody that spans the age group of that party or that wedding, or a commercial shoot from an art director right down to the assistants that are running around making cups of tea. Your personality is really important, that you can get the best out of everybody. And social photography, especially if it's weddings, parties, family portraits, you've got to bring that personality out of everybody who's around you. So you've got to click your brain straight away into, okay, I am in super friendly mode. I am really, you know, I'm going to suss out these people. I'm going to work out how I can get them to relax in front of the camera. Or on a commercial shoot, it's about, okay, so how do I get this team to work together so that we can produce the best product photography? Or yeah, and it's really important to be able to get on with, you know, the most important person in the room to the least important person in the room, because everybody's working towards the same thing. So yeah, I would say that's really, really important as you're starting out. So really have a good think about, is it the industry that you want to be a part of based on your personality, your skill set, and especially when you're starting out the bottom, you've got to work blooming hard. It's really hard work. You've got to do your marketing, get your portfolio together, go and see people, networking all the time. The key thing I did, which I would definitely recommend, is assisting work, where you get a job as an assistant to a professional photographer. I did that. I didn't train. I didn't get any qualifications. I was working in the graphic design industry as a project manager in business because I did a business degree at college. I always wanted to be a photographer. I was always told not to because, oh, it's a fluffy creative job, you know, but I followed my heart, followed my passion, gave up my job and started, you know, ringing around, talking to photographers and just asked for jobs. So going back to your food photography thing, I didn't really set out saying I wanted to be a food photographer, but one of these people that I managed to talk to get advice from was a food photographer, and he offered me some work experience. So I got into it like that, and on day one I met Jamie Oliver. I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody, but yeah. Yeah, so I worked with one of the top food photographers in London, and that, you know, was a gift, an absolute gift. So of course, when I did 2 years assisting, built up my portfolio through my own personal work. I practiced, took photos, saw my photographer mentor. I asked him if, you know, what pictures were good enough to go into my portfolio. He helped me compile my portfolio, which probably in this day and age would be a website or however people market their work. And based on that, I approached businesses and started. And you're working from the bottom. And in my day, I was pounding the streets on pavements with my portfolio, ringing up, making appointments, going to ad agencies, going into design agencies, you know, magazines, publishers. It takes guts, and I'm not that gutsy in that sense. I'm quite sensitive, so you have to be able to prepare yourself for a no, as I said. So yeah, so it's kind of just being visible, being keen. There's nothing nicer than someone who's really keen to learn about the business and the trade and how it all works. And like I said, I did 2 years assisting, and then I pushed out into the big wide world.
Wow, that's a fantastic journey. If you were going to go back, just to sort of end on really, Gemma, if you were going to go back and give young Gemma one piece of advice about careers, what would it be?
It's not easy. I think everyone starts out everything new, and you try in life. There's a naivety because you've got no experience in it and you haven't had the knocks yet. So obviously, I've got the advantage. If I was to look back, I've had the knocks, I've had the highs, I've had the lows. Don't expect if you get one big job that suddenly all the big jobs are going to follow. You have to keep working at it. Like the first cookbook deal I got was with, or commissioned to do, was with Gok One. and it was in conjunction with his first TV show about his cooking program. And I was like, right, that's it, I'm made, that's it. I'm just going to be doing all the cookbooks to the stars from now on. Da, da, da. But you still have to go back and take your portfolio out and pitch for the job. So it's not easy. And I do feel for the people coming up nowadays, because when I started out, it was film and it was quite niche, and it was quite, you know, to make it, you had to be really good and you stood out. Now with digital, everyone gets a digital camera, thinks they can do everything in Photoshop, change it, do this. And the key thing is, compose that shot right first time, that you don't have to do much in post-production. Obviously, you've got to look at the light a little bit and the contrast, because some raw files in cameras are quite flat looking. But what gets me when I teach young people the mechanics of photography, they all think I'll just change it in Photoshop. Doesn't matter. It does matter. So it's like, really hone that skill. I've suffered a little bit having started in film and having to transition to digital, but kids today have grown up with digital, so they're probably at an advantage from me in that respect. But it's not to do with what expensive camera you've got, it's to do with your eye. But it does mean competition is a lot fiercer, because it's much more accessible now. A digital camera, a lot of people, phones, people are taking pictures on their phones and trying to make money out of it as well. So there's huge competition out there. So to end on this, I would say really think carefully if you're prepared to put in the graft, and are you passionate enough? I think there's got to be a real passion about photography there.
That's fantastic. Gemma, thank you so much for your time. What a great note to end on. Thank you.
You're welcome.